Okay, then, technology, not collaborating. So, good evening, and thank you for joining us to usher in International Women's Day. I'm Ninna Kler, the curator of 7 acts of a woman's life. And I came up with the idea of this event to be able to celebrate the many acts that women juggle in the theater of their life. I've often found that while we're juggling these many acts, we forget to take care of our own health and well being. And through these conversations, we hope to be able to change the narrative slash script around it. But before we get started, I'd like to thank our partners for being super supportive. So, first of all, QuintFit, thank you so much for being there this time, the previous time, and hopefully many times to come. So thank you, Parthavi, and thank you, Vishali, for not only hosting us, but even taking part in this event actively. Really appreciate the support. I'd like to thank Mana Wellness for being our well-being partner. So thank you, Ashwin, for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to start our relationship with you. And I'd like to thank Dr. K.K. Agarwal Heart Care Foundation of India to be our NGO partner. Thank you, Naina. Really appreciate the support. And of course, the Healthy Indian Project, founded by my friend Sudipto Sengupta, who is our healthcare partner. So we have 45 minutes. I want to make the most of it. So going to jump straight away into it. So our first panel is about, is it possible to have work and home life balance? And I have a stellar panel that we managed to put together. So I'm really excited. And joining me are 3 dynamic women. First of all, Neha Kirpal. Neha is the co-founder of InnerR, one of India's biggest platforms which uses technology to provide quality mental health care. She also founded and ran India Art Fair for 10 years. Thank you, Neha. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Lovely. Sunita Wazir, she's Senior Manager, Global Wellbeing, Unilever. And just in time, Sunita, just in time. The thing is, the thing I'm telling the audience right now, before you came in, I was going to mention the fact that this is a very busy time of the year for everybody. And I so appreciate you all taking the time out for joining us for this event. I really appreciate it. I know that Neha and you are back to back in meetings, but thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. So Sunita is a human resources and leadership development professional. Did I mention she is the Senior Manager Global Wellbeing Unilever? That too. Currently, this is what I love when I'm reading out bios, the fact that you're currently living your purpose of helping people become the best version of themselves through the role you're leading at the global well-being agenda at Unilever. And my favorite part, both of you are mental health advocates. That's something so close to my heart. I'm so happy that we're starting off on this note. And Dia Kapoor Misra is a pal from school who has always been super duper successful from school up until now. So I'm so happy that we're able to have this conversation. Dia is a leadership advisor, coach, and DEI champion who passionately invests in developing women leaders. She's worked at Hindustan Unilever, Hewitt, and Cadbury's, to name a few companies. I couldn't do justice to you ladies when I was trying to cut down the bios. I was like, good Lord, your accomplishments are like mammoth. So okay, we're going to hop right into the conversation. It's going to be a power-packed one. So Sunita, my first question is for you.
Sure.
So we're talking about balance, right? And we know that what happens at home affects you at work, and what happens at work affects you at, vice versa, essentially. So I think it's very important for us to understand essentially what is emotional inclusion and what is important for organizations to do now in a post-pandemic world in order to adapt.
Thanks, Nina. That's a great place to start. And I think the big reality that happened with the pandemic is that work and life no longer had that separation, right? We all know that. Children were walking into video calls, the pressure cooker, sound was coming in. Life changed for us completely. And we had to adapt really quickly to all of the needs, the technology needs, the work needs, the collaboration needs. We all need all of that. But I think the thing we continued to need after a point of time was the social connections that started really, getting a big brunt of it. Mental health started getting affected so much. Isolation, loneliness, all of those became, real problems. And you could see it. It was palpable at the workplace that there was no workplace anymore, right? So there was a big sort of shift that happened. Now, being emotionally inclusive is where someone feels comfortable. They feel that this is a safe space, they can be themselves, they can express themselves. And a lot of that happened in the informal conversations that were happening at the coffee machine, at canteen, at lunch, and all of that. For me, I mean, for example, the best conversations I had was on my drive to work, right? There were just people that I wanted to connect to, and that time alone was also gone. So that collecting yourself, driving to work, and then being at work, and then taking those chai breaks or adda breaks or whatever it is, that sort of went away. How did we then have to manage these last 2 years? Already, I think technology, which is our biggest enabler, is also something that causes havoc in our lives. And now, without having social interaction, so not making eye contact, not meeting people, became really hard. So some of the things we did, we obviously very quickly as an organization made available tools for people to cope emotionally with loneliness. How do leaders lead better? How do you lead in a virtual world, right? But that was 2 years ago. We had to keep doing things that were going to keep people engaged and connected. So along the way, we started really encouraging connections, a little bit of social time, video calls, which some people can't do. The reality is we live in India. Everyone can't put on their video because of the circumstances they're working in. But being cognizant of it where possible, just fostering that. And amongst other things that we've enabled over these past couple of years for hybrid working, which is now a reality. Some people are going to work in the offices, some are going to work at home. I think just really equipping our leaders. So there are sort of big, I'll very quickly round this up. There are 4 pillars to our mental health framework. The first one is leadership. You cannot take that away. Leadership has to be prepared and has to be almost given the opportunity to understand the dimensions that their interaction with people have on their lives. I mean, it just covers the individual's entire life. When a person in our survey rates the company and how the company is, they're not rating the company, they're rating the relationship they have with their leader or their team, right? So we really worked a lot on gearing leadership for this new reality. We also worked a lot on culture. So what are the cues? Used a lot of storytelling, a lot of active connection with people. We continue to work on psychological safety, which is key to all of this. Just knowing that you can be yourself, open up. That's the second thing we did. The third one is keep ramping up prevention. So we brought a lot of support through peers. So we trained our peers. There are now 3,800 mental health champions globally across Unilever, people who have volunteered to offer a listening ear without being judgmental. So that's something we really invested in. And the fourth one is support. So unquestioning anytime, anywhere support. So employee assistance programs, access to helplines, access to support systems. While a lot of this was already in place for us before we started the pandemic, it just became almost a platform for us to promote all of these. So that's where we are right now. We just keep the conversations open. Leaders share their vulnerabilities, make accessible support that each person wants, because people's needs are very distinctive. So just not trying to assume anything, and making a level playing field for anyone who needs help. It's a little longish answer, but yeah, that's all about inclusion, emotional.
No, I think it's wonderful to know point by point what you're doing and what you've seen work. And I think the important thing is, Sunita, that when organizations come up with such plans and they sort of have a view in terms of what the future should look like, I think it should be not only now but for all times to come, that there should be emotional inclusion. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. This is not sort of a passing fad, right? There is no normal now. There is no new normal that's going to come. This is going to be something we need to keep investing in, keep working on. And it is going to be hard. And of course, it was harder on women. No one's going to take that away, right? For us as homemakers, while we were starting to work from home, in fact, we saw the statistics around it. Initially, soon after the pandemic, we saw the dip. We saw that women were more impacted. And that's just a reality. So as women, we are, we get this image of the Durga with the many hands, and sometimes that becomes a bit of a trap, because then you feel you have to be everything to everyone. And we just make sure we offer the safe spaces for people to open up and speak.
Thank you so much, Sunita. What I find really ironic is the fact that I have been advocating mental health since 1997 when I was in college, and people would be like, don't talk about your mental health problems, Ninna. People will think you're crazy. Don't tell anybody you ever had medication. And now, so this is kind of the double-edged sword of the pandemic. I feel that now, at least we're all talking about it and people aren't afraid to be judged. I mean, we've come a long way. So I think for me, when I think of it, the boon of COVID has been that we're talking now. And Neha, you have been actively advocating mental health for years and years, and I absolutely love your story and the passion and all the work that you do. So I'd want you to talk about, what are the kind of challenges that you see women facing?
Yeah, thanks for bringing me in, Nina. I think the beauty of COVID, as unfortunate as it sounds, is that it has just established some of what was already happening. So this lack of work-life balance, these boundaries getting blurred, the fact that we were just playing, eating into our reserves and running on low battery for a long, long time. A lot of that is not something that is just a COVID phenomena. It's just that COVID has now established it as something that is now normal, right? And in that sense, a lot of people who were struggling with some of these issues even before COVID are now being able to find a systemic solution and perhaps recognize that there is a need to reboot. So when we think about women and what all the many hats that women wear, all the roles that we need to play, but also the expectation one has of oneself, and in the way that one needs to be playing those roles, I think it's really very telling, because often we're the harshest on ourselves, and always sort of putting ourselves on the back burner. And that recognition that women, children, men, everybody needs the love, needs the space, needs the respect, needs time off, are all very important. So I feel like just this sense of balance that we talk about, its balance is not a universal phenomena. There is each one's sense and definition and formula of balance is unique to them and their life specific situations. And so for me, I think the most important thing is really recognizing in my life context, for all the choices that I want to make, for all the things that bring meaning and purpose, what is my formula for balance? And it might look completely imbalanced to the next person whose definition might be very different from mine. But as long as I'm comfortable with that definition of balance, I think that is something that I can then try and build life around, and find peace within, right? So I think that while women struggle in many ways, but there are also opportunities if we allowed ourselves to think and reinterpret. And COVID has helped open up that possibility, and we should all make the most of it and reboot and reset and reconfigure our lives, because it's about the here and now, as we've all realized, given how much we've lost also in the context of the last few years.
Neha, I'd want to ask you, follow up to that. Is there something in specific you do to take care? Because I mean, I know you've never shied away from sharing your own challenges, and I mean, I marvel when I think of the experiences you've had in your life. Your personal experiences, Neha. I mean, if I may touch upon that nerve, I know that you've had losses in your life. It gives me goosebumps asking you this question, but I know how closely you've dealt with mental health issues. So how do you personally and professionally balance? I mean, I think it's a lesson worth learning from somebody who's gone through something, as the challenges you have.
I think the trap is trying to expect and strive for balance, rather than balance being an outcome. Balance being just something that emerges from you just dealing with whatever is going on in your life. And so the way I look at it is that, for me, I mean, you talked about sort of my personal relationships. My mother has had schizophrenia for all of my life. I have seen certain losses over the last few years, all to mental health, and realized so much that it is the toll that it takes on you. The fact that a lot of grief and a lot of trauma goes unaddressed and unnoticed, because we're so much about the doing, we're so much about progress and measuring ourselves with the next milestone, that one forgets to recognize that the foundation has got completely eroded, and there is going to be a moment in time when that building will come crashing down. And so just taking a pause and giving ourselves that space and time to heal and support. A lot of what we do at NRR is about that. It's about saying, let's recognize support is needed early on. Let's provide it in easy, accessible ways, whether it's online or offline, or with people or with apps. The idea really is to be able to surround yourself with the support that is needed. And if we do that, then I feel like there is a chance to sort of work through those challenges and traumas and find peace with the choices that one makes. So I think that journey is very important, and often we deprive ourselves of that journey because we're just on some other journey that somebody else has defined for us, or that is sort of our assumed sense of identity, that I must be doing this and I must be this kind of person. I feel like there is a chance to just drop all those labels and just do what works for each individual, each one to themselves.
Thank you so much, Neha. Really, I mean, I'm happy that I know you, and I just can't believe how strong you are. I mean, I think we can have just one conversation with you, learning about resilience. And Sunita, we're going to come to that later with you. But for now, Dia, my question to you, if you could unmute yourself, please, is that what does balance mean to you? I want to know about your personal story. So if you could share, what does balance mean to you?
Sure. Thanks, Nina. So, it's interesting when Neha and Sunita were talking, there's so much that both of you said which resonated so beautifully with me. You talked about the fact that often as women, we're very hard on ourselves and we have these images that we create of, what we need to be. And I think my personal story has been through, all of those moments, the ups and downs. In many ways, I think what defines me is that I've always been multidimensional, and doing many different things has always been kind of my thrill and what gives me fulfillment. So for me, balance has been about trying to manage those different interests and play those multiple roles that that I want to in my life. And I'll admit it's not always been easy. To the point that Neha just made, I think my own definition of balance has changed over the years and it's evolved. And I think embracing those changes over a period of time is such an important part of actually being able to strive for balance. So when I was single, it was all about my career and my own hobbies. I got married. It became about my home, my husband, my career continued, and then of course the biggest change of all, which is motherhood. And both times round, I have two beautiful daughters. I took career breaks for in one case 18 months, in another case 12 months, and people who knew me were surprised because the image that they had of me was this driven, sort of ambitious career woman, and they couldn't believe that I was actually going to stay at home for 2 years. But I absolutely loved it. And for me at that stage, that was my way of, bringing balance into my life. But I love my work. So I came back to it, 18 to 24 months later. And it was really hard trying to sort of manage it all and balance it all. And I think my biggest learning in that process was that trying to achieve balance every day was neither needed, frankly, nor possible. And I think the day that I realized that, I kind of lightened up on myself. And I realized that, there'll be some days when work will take over, it'll be really intense, and I won't have enough time for my children. And then there'll be some days when I will give all my time to my family and my kids, and work will take a backseat, and that's absolutely fine. So my biggest realization has been that, kind of measuring my balance has to be a more medium to long-term goal and not a daily struggle, because over the long run, it does balance out. So I kind of feel like my pendulum sort of swings in one direction sometimes, and then it swings the other side, in between. But eventually it comes to rest and balance. And so today I feel a lot more kind of fulfilled with all the different things that I'm doing, between work, the kids, actively volunteering in their schools, running leadership development programs for women, writing, yoga, singing. I mean, I really managed to pack it all in. And I feel really good about it. And I think the best thing that I've sort of the most pride that I have is that hopefully I'm the right role model for my own girls, for them to know that they can actually do whatever they want in their lives and define their own balance for themselves.
I think that's so beautiful, Dia, giving yourself permission. And I must tell you, when I saw you at the school reunion, it was such a pleasure. We've all changed, right? We've all grown, evolved in certain ways. And, you've always been an achiever, right? And you're still so successful. But to see that in 25 years, of course, it will change a lot, but you've lightened up tremendously. It seems like there was this lightness of being. So I think that giving yourself permission, and you look so bloody good, Dia. I mean, seriously.
You're so sweet, Tina. Thank you. But, I'll say this, and this is very personal, but I'm, on this forum, I feel comfortable to share it. I nearly lost my second daughter. She was born 3 months premature, and it was a very, very hard period for us as a family. And I think, honestly, unfortunately, when you have situations like that or crises that you go through, you kind of reevaluate your own priorities. And I think a lot of the lightening up that you've talked about, it's funny, it's ironic, but the intensity is actually what brought the lightening up. Because I just realized that, probably a different set of things are really important in life to what I was chasing before that. And that's brought balance. So I'm actually doing more than I was earlier, but with a greater sense of balance.
Oh, how lovely. How lovely, Dia. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, Sunita, we were mentioning the word resilience before, and this is a word that I'm trying to understand, right? So in 2020, everybody was talking about resilience. There were like, podcasts about resilience, and the pandemic had just begun, and I thought it's a really good sort of bandwagon to jump onto. I had spoken to a publishing agent, in fact, also, and there was a book coming out on resilience. Thank God I didn't write it, because now at many places there is flack. Okay, and I mean, bear with me for this question, but I've always thought it's important to be resilient, right? To learn how to bounce back, right? But when people talk about resilience at the workplace, I don't know, why does it feel like workplace resilience means that the workplace is a war zone? This is what I feel. So, I mean, why do we even need resilience at the workplace is my question for you.
Love the question, Nina, and I love how you framed it, right? Workplace is a war zone. So I think that's very interesting. But before I get to this, I just want to say, they are so inspiring, Dia, Neha, just hearing both of you. I mean, what a group of women you've got, Nina. I'm so glad I left the meeting that's going on next door to come here because, Dia, everything you said resonated so much. I took a career break. It was unusual. I worked part-time for 9 years, big hit to the pay. But I love that my children have a role model. I got to be with them. I didn't have them for the maids, right? I mean, that was my perception. Whatever works for each person. So just, I wanted to applaud loudly when you were speaking, because that's really it. The balance that we all need to have is our own. But where's the problem? Where does the problem lie? Workplaces are these complex jungles, I guess, where, I don't know, war zone, jungle, whatever it is. I think we've all got used, Nina, to project ourselves or posture ourselves in a particular light, right? We want to be seen and taken seriously. More as women, we really want to be taken seriously. Now, imagine me, I was working part-time in this amazing company, but it's always seen as a but. There's always a but, and what comes after the but is very different, right? Oh, but she works, she wants to go home, or she's leaving at 4:30, that means she's doing a half day, or whatever it is, right? There are those perceptions that individuals have. How much ever today I'm crafting the strategies, so I know that that's not the intent, but individuals are individuals. They'll look at it the way they do. So this whole posturing that we do, it's almost like, we're always alert. It's like even when we are driving in a city like Mumbai, where I am, you're always on alert. You don't know who's coming to hit you. So it's the same with the workplace. We all assume this whole Avengers character where we have to be rugged, we have to be strong, we have to be everything. Never show your weakness, never say you're tired, you're never exhausted. Somebody says, get this done. You'll say, yes, I'll get it done in 48 hours. This deadline is unreal. Kill ourselves and deliver it, right? We all want to do that to a certain extent, and then we reach a point in life where we say, okay, this is it, now I'm not going to do it anymore. A lot of us do that. Some of us wake up along the way and say, no, that's not for me, I want to do something different. And then you have to have an alternate career path when you do that. But just going back to this idea of resilience and what you're talking about, which is rugged resilience, which is the always narrative that we have of resilience. But I want to bring out this idea, and I heard this from the Resilience Research Institute in Canada from Professor Mike Unger. It's not about rugged resilience. It's about resource resilience, right? It's about who are the people you can turn to. It takes a village to bring up a child. It takes, a community to help you get past mental health issues or challenges. It takes friends and relatives to speak to when you have complex work issues. And it's about those resources. It's about the social network, the community you belong to, the people you turn to when you have issues. It's about bringing those together, the love, the relationships that you have, the anchors that you have. And my submission to everyone is, why don't we look at it as a resource resilience where we have, where we know that right now I'm feeling vulnerable, I have to travel, my kids are going to be alone, I reach a friend who's able to come in and check on them, or, just finding the right people to help us find this balance. We need to start promoting this idea of resilience being a factor of everyone coming together and being a part of our journey together. So this whole idea of posturing ourselves, never trying to be anything different. I love using stories. So I'll give you my own story. When I was working part-time, There were days, of course, that I stayed on work later. I used to try and be home. So I centered my life around my kids. I would go to work at the time they went to school, and I'd try and be home when they got home, because that is the way I structured. I was, kind of, that's the relationship I had. But you never switch off. So some days I would stay later. But even if I was sitting with our CEO, it was perfectly okay. When my kid got home by her bus, and she called, I took her call, and nobody ruled it, right? When the call came, usually in a meeting, you just never do it. But when my child is calling, I'm going to take their call. The more we are open about our needs and we say what it is, people will be far more accepting. So I think that's the reality. We need to take ownership of this change, and we need to do it together. But it's also about opening up with our vulnerabilities. And the more people that are vocal talk about their own vulnerabilities, everyone will start feeling that they have the permission, the license, the ability, and the opportunity to not focus on resilience in the narrative that it was, and focus on resilience as it should be, which is finding the resources you need to get through the issue.
Thanks, Sunita. I will come back to you again because I do want to talk about what you've done at Unilever that's working well, is something that I definitely want to come back. And Neha, coming to you, I mean, the fact of the matter is, whether it's workplace or whether it's, your personal life, people end up getting mental health issues, whether it's, the circumstances, whether it's genetic, for whatever reason. And we do know that there is there's a lack of mental health resources. There's a huge challenge in the country, right? So I want you to talk a little bit about Inner Hour, and how do you think Inner Hour can be a game changer for women especially, please?
Great question to get to how we can help ourselves, right? I just want to add to what Sunita said around sustainable resilience. Because one of the problems with mental health is that nobody gets around to it, right? Because it's the return on investment in the immediate context seems not good enough, right? And so we tend to be resilient, which basically means powering through, and I would really urge people to do the being, if that's what it takes. And Sunita talked about community and other support, rather than sort of become the doing, right? And associate our sense of identities with what we do, and sort of lose ourselves in the process. So at Inner Hour, a lot of what we're trying to do is just say that it is a set of resources and tools and services that is available to you to be able to meet you where you are at in your desire to support your own mental health needs. Now, it might be that in the middle of the night you want to do a check-in, you want to get a sense of how you're feeling in terms of your depression or your anxiety or low moods, or without even putting any labels on it, just not feeling so good. And a bunch of self-help tools, a bunch of content and activities and things that can help people navigate through the day-to-day. Of course, we recognize that at some points in our lives, things have piled up, perhaps, and there are actually conditions that need to be addressed around depressive disorders, around anxiety disorders. See, a lot of what happens at life and at work, which is also part of life, are all taking a toll on your mental health, right? So, I mean, it could be around marital abuse, it could be domestic violence, it could be sexual abuse, it could be addiction-based traumas, divorce, separation, loss of a loved one. All of this, your boss being a bully on you, all of this is part of what takes away from your mental health. And therefore, solving for mental health means solving for all of this, right? And so a lot of what we do at Inner Hour is just recognize that this is a multidimensional problem, and the solution needs to be so as well. And so whether you need psychiatric support, or you need therapy support, or you need community-based support, all of that is available on the same platform. And very soon we are also putting up physical centers where people can actually go and get support. So the idea is to be able to surround you with all the possible help, and depending on your needs and your readiness, for you to be able to access that support. To me, the more things like this become available, we do this, Mana does a great job. There are so many organizations who are putting out services. The more that happens, the more it becomes normalized and validated that it is okay for me to get help. Because help is everywhere. So there must be people using it, right? And so if others are doing it, then I can do it too. And so for women, I mean, 70% of our platform is women users. And we get women, about 50% of our users are from tier 2 cities or tier 3 cities, and over 200 cities across India. So imagine our platform is in English, and we have women from 200 cities across the country who are reaching out and talking about what their needs are, what their challenges are, and the fact that they have realized that they now need help and they are willing to get that, right? This is a big change, and this is a change in small town India as well, not just the big metros. So we hope to be part of enabling that change and supporting it with what is needed when it is needed, and hopefully helping people navigate this journey better, making it lighter. The whole challenge is getting to a point where you're ready to get help. But once you're ready, you should have quality healthcare available to you, just like you would in any other way. Nina, you're on mute.
Thank you, technology again. So around 4:15, I was fully ready. I have severe anxiety issues. Like literally, I'm controlling the twitch of my left eye. I mean, I have really bad anxiety issues. So here I am. I'm trying to beat it. I don't want to be anxious. I'm on top of it. Script is ready. Laptop in the correct direction. Curtains closed. All set. And then suddenly, grrr, drilling, banging. And I call the guard downstairs and I'm like, can you find out where this damn noise is coming from? He says, 500 do. So then I call 502. Nobody's answering. I went in my pajamas and my vest upstairs, okay, because makeup was done, but I hadn't dressed up yet. I went upstairs and there was work happening. So this is the reality that we live in, right? So you're working, you have a really important interview, and there's noise in the background. What the hell do you do? So I'm kind of happy that we're going back to, like, almost getting back to working at the workplace now. But there's a balance that one has to strike, right? So I know so many people who tell me now, Nina, it's okay, the kid is crying walking behind me or the dog is barking, it's fine. So I think we all kind of figure out how to make our situations work. But Neha, what's wonderful is hearing about your journey. And I remember when we met in 2019, I think you had mentioned that part of the big plan was a physical work, was the presence of physical centers. So I'm so happy to hear that. It's wonderful. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. But so how many centers are you looking at? Do you have an idea? Where all are they going to be?
We're setting up our first few in this quarter, and hopefully then we will look at a multi-city sort of presence. But the attempt is really to be able to provide end-to-end support for all mental illness, mild, moderate, and severe. So whether it's for psychotic disorders or addictive disorders or depression and anxiety, all of it can be extremely severe or extremely manageable. And what people don't realize is that the disease looks bad sometimes, it feels horrible, and the intervention can be very, very traumatic. But actually, most of these conditions are treatable, are curable. You can have a great degree of rehabilitation if you were to go through that journey. So a lot of the physical infrastructure is to provide the spaces, both residential and outpatient clinics that will actually provide the end-to-end needs for someone's mental health recovery, and also then maintenance and rehabilitation, not just as a one-off, so that you're off on your own and then you have to deal with your challenges by yourself in your family, but to be able to provide a continuous support system in a way that it is present and accessible, and hopefully helping everyone along the way. So yeah, that's the plan. And, we're off with our first few this year, so let's see where that takes us.
I'm sure it'll take you to the moon and back, Neha. You're so good at what you do. I urge the audience to please check out Inner Hour and watch out for Neha's next few steps in her journey. But Dia, coming to you, I want you to put on your coach lens for this one, please. Right. So for you, what are the women's struggles for balance, and what can they do to strike a balance?
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think every time I think of the word balance, the kind of image it brings up in my head is an acrobat on a tightrope, or like a juggler with multiple balls in the air, right? And truth be told, that's how the lives of many women, and particularly working women, feel like. So I think first and foremost, I would say that often we end up chasing a sort of rather vague and very elusive concept of balance in our heads. And I think that itself is a huge source of pressure. And I see this play out time and time again as a coach with women. So the first thing that I would say is figure out, like what Neha said, what your own sense of balance is, right? What does balance mean to you? And it's very different for different individuals. And I think the first step is to figure out what is it that really, balance means to me. And to me, it's about coming from a place of self-awareness. So first figuring out what I need in order to be happy and fulfilled. Because if I can do that, then I'm really able to give more to all my relationships and everything else that I'm trying to accomplish in life, right? So coming from a place of self-awareness, defining what it means to have balance in life, I think is the first very important starting point. Rather than trying to sort of go with any kind of generic definition that anyone else has set for you. And it is about what you need of your own life. So it's not what your organization wants of you. It's not what your team needs. It's not even what your family needs. It's first what you need to feel fulfilled and happy. So I think that's the first, most important starting point. And as a coach, that is my attempt, and many other, wonderful coaches who do great work with women. I think that's a great starting point in that coaching journey. The other piece is, I think, about then having defined it, to strive for it unapologetically. So easier said than done, I know, but try and shed the guilt around the choices that you do need to make in order to be able to then go for that balance, whatever it is and whatever it means to you. And the other two things that I would say are, and it sort of, I think, somewhere touches upon, what Sunita was talking about when she talked about resource resilience. The two things that I think are particularly helpful, and for women in particular, one is prioritizing things differently at different stages in life. Life changes over a period of time. In my 45 years on this earth, I've gone through kind of redefinition so many times, and I think embracing those changes rather than fighting them and evolving with them is probably one of the most important things you can do for yourself as a woman. And it greatly helps to feel balanced in a different way at different stages in your life. So I think that process of acceptance and evolution is one that I think is very, very important. The other is the whole aspect of your support system. I think not enough of us feel comfortable asking for help. And we get into this whole thing of feeling like we have to do it all ourselves. And I think that is really, it becomes our worst enemy if we're trying to actually get to some sense of balance. So if we can consciously nurture a support system, particularly in our personal lives, my friends, my women friends, my girlfriends over the years have been my biggest support system. My parents, my husband, even my children. So, at all stages, involving my kids in what my ambition is, what my dream is, so that they realize why I'm going out to work, what it gives to me. I think all of those things are really, really important to be able to then get the support that you need in order to be doing this in a way where you're not struggling alone constantly. And that really helps, I think, to achieve balance. My husband laughs sometimes and says, our helpers at home know everything that's going on in my work life. And it's true, because they are such an important part of my life and, provide stability for me in my home when I'm out doing the things that I love, that they are actually a part of my professional life as well. So I share stories with them about what happened and, the event. I will talk to them tomorrow about, the conversation that the four of us had today, because I think that's what happens when you build that support system and you kind of, create that network that rallies around you. That's when you can actually think about moving from, the acrobatic act of trying to get to balance to something which is far more real and attainable.
I love the fact that you spoke about support systems. Dia, you know that I don't have a cookie cutter resume. I didn't work most of my life. I've done whatever the hell I wanted to, glass blowing, stained glass painting, art school, whatever the hell most of my life. So when I came back to India to get divorced, it was like, oh my God, what is this real world about, So I enlisted for Sairi Cheher's Flexi Moms workshop. And I did not even know what Twitter is, who the founder, whole life has changed, right? So when I hear somebody like a Sairi at that time talking about a sisterhood, it didn't make sense to me. But over the years, as I started working, I realized, and I remember our kids would go to the same ballet center. And here I am, like going from pillar to post, taking Gia from class to class. And Sairi had it all down pat. She had one friend who would take the kid from here, there, if she could make it for something. And I realized there's no shame in it. It's wonderful if you have your support structures in place and you have somebody who can give your kid a ride from point A to point B. You can get your stuff done, and then you can spend quality time with your child. Now I have no grief, no hesitation when I ask people for help. So I think it's very important to have your support system in place. And another thing that I've really started cherishing are my girlfriends. Oh my goodness, like seriously. Yeah, I mean, I'll share a blog I wrote about this. That people think, men tend to think that women want, the best sex possible, diamonds. No, 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 they don't. They want everything to be taken care of in terms of in order, whether it's your kid, whether it's your personal life, that there's no drama in your life. No, women don't want what men normally think that you do. You know what I'm saying? So I will definitely share that blog with you. But thank you for sharing your version of what balance would look like and how you can support yourself. Sunita, before we wrap up, I'm getting messages, and this is going to be amazing because we're actually going to be on time. So we have 5 minutes to go, Sunita, and I would love for you to share. That I mean, Unilever has been recognized for best to be the best in employee wellness. So I want to know what exactly are you doing right at Unilever? If you could share that, please.
Sure, and I'll be quick as well, Nina. The so the bigger thing is, first of all, recognizing that we need to be able to speak out. Addressing stigma, just letting people be who they are, and having a workplace where people can actually express themselves when things are going wrong. Now, that doesn't happen by chance. You have to change the conversation. You have to change the narrative a little bit. So, having started this whole process of opening up about our vulnerabilities, ensuring people speak up about mental health, about anxiety, about physical issues, whatever it is. What we did is we have a very clearly planned out well-being strategy, which is excessively, of course, focused on mental health because we're trying to correct the imbalance. Physical health is always okay to talk about, but mental health has always been so shrouded in mystery, right? And so the programs that we've run across over the years is, first of all, I think the key is not to have transactional experiences. You have to make it transformative, and to be transformative, you can't do that through an activation or a Zumba class or a fun day. Women's Day cannot be about just fun day where people give us roses and they do our hair. That's not it, right? We like all of that, but that's not what transformation is all about. So to be able to help people, we do work on awareness building, on education, because that's also an issue. See, our geographic and demographic spread is huge. We have manufacturing workers, we've got people feet on the street selling our products, and we've got the office-based staff. So we needed to have a multi-pronged approach. So making sure we do a lot of awareness and communication, ensuring that we have different kinds of support available. Support cannot be the same for everyone, right? Everyone cannot call a helpline or speak to an expert or a counselor. So anytime, anywhere, unquestioning support. And I think the last 2 years, what we've really focused on is also peer support. People want to help one another. Nobody wants to sit back and say, oh, that person has a problem and let it go. Some of us are just attuned to listening more. So having a peer network. So we've started mindfulness programs, mental health champions. All of these are community members, employees that have come forward to be further equipped to help others. That's a lot of giving while receiving. So I became a mindfulness champion myself in these last 2.5 years. And what I realized is it was transformative for me. I never ever do this based on what I want. Make sure we do a lot of crowdsourcing. We ask people what they really want. That's the other thing to be sure of. And then, of course, lastly, I think the biggest thing that we keep working on is to work with our leadership, just ensuring they are fully equipped, they are aware, they have the tools, toolbox of things to do, how to help people spot signs and symptoms of anxiety, stress building up. Lots and lots of e-learning. We've leveraged that as well. So it's a suite of learning, prevention support, as well as this whole cultural pieces where you change the way the conversation happens. I think that is an ongoing effort. You can't tell people here is a helpline, now contact it. It doesn't happen with one go. You have to keep messaging, reiterating it, and making it easy and accessible. Multilingual, no questions asked. That's really, really important. People want to talk about their problems in the language that they have. So really a variety of anytime, anywhere, your well-being, your way solutions.
I love that. The fact that you said transformative, not transactional, because sometimes it's kind of like a tick. We did this at our organization. We did this. That's wonderful. And I think it's all about systemic change. And that's the only way it happens. If you make all these changes together, except just, clicking one box and ticking it off. But this has been such a wonderful conversation. I mean, I could go on and on asking you ladies questions, but in the interest of time, we have to wrap up. And I'd really like to thank you for taking out the time. I know that it's been a very, very busy weekend for you ladies, but thank you for joining us, and hope to have you all soon again on a different platform as well. So I'd like to urge the audience to stay tuned for panel 2 on womanhood, moderated by Parthavi Singh, who is the Associate Editor, Audience Engagement at Quint Fit. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. A couple of seconds, and Parthavi is going to take over.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Ninna, for again letting me be a part of your event. So, here we are today to talk about womanhood and what really it means. So, today on a panel, we have three wonderful women. We have Jyotsna Kaur Habibullah, who's the CEO of Lucknow Farmers Market in India, and we have Jyotsna Siddharth. They are the country director of Gender at Work, and she's also an activist, artist, and a writer, and was also featured under 40 Under 40 by edX and the New India Express. And we have Nikki Gupta, who runs We Do Things, which is a marketing and business platform. Nikki is also a former redditor, and she has been a part of the industry for a while. So, okay, guys.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course, we can all hear you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So can we start off with the questions?
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So the first question is, so for years, women have had to face challenges to be seen and accepted while struggling just to avail something as basic as fundamental rights. And for that also we get to hear things like uh, women are being given too much of rights today, which is something as it's actually a basic thing, a basic human right. So we've come far today, but is it enough or is it easier to survive as a woman in today's date? Because we might have different struggles, but do you think it's the same or the struggles are different now? What is your take on it?
Is that for me? Sorry.
Whoever wants to answer,
I
please.
can't.
Jyotsna, would you like to
Okay,
answer?
perfect.
Jyotsna
Go
Kaur?
ahead. Okay, now we're going to have this Jyotsna business. So hi, Jyotsna Siddharth.
Yeah.
It's nice to have my namesake here. So you'll have to call us Jyotsna Kaur and Siddharth. So,
Yeah.
I think that this is a double-edged question, because I think many of us, we come from a position of privilege where, the doors are not closed for us, And for instance, I have a really supportive husband and parents and family who actually are my support system and, who actually support me in doing everything that I want to do. But it's 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 the other ones who don't have those opportunities, right? That we have to actually open doors for, and it's not easier for them. I mean, I can tell you because I'm working in Lucknow with women entrepreneurs. I have an all-woman team. There are still girls who cannot choose what they want to study in college, who are told that, you've got to get married. Why do you want to decide what you want to study? Finish your degree and come back. Their parents actually send them to college. Now, why are you sending a girl to college and you're giving her the opportunity to think and to be exposed to a different environment, and then you tell her, but you've got to just get married and come back? So it hasn't got easier. There's a lot more of these conversations that need to be had, and it's that's the way it is. This is something that is some we have to continue to talk about. We have to create a lot more awareness about and give women the tools. So organizations need to actually support, the colleges need to actually support these girls when these kind of situations are happening. And we need to have a lot more of these conversations in the rural areas too.
I agree. I agree with what you were saying, Jyotsna, because with time, I feel it's gotten only easier for us where privilege kind of comes in. But seeing that down below in the chain, you realize that it's still far out. And if we can extend our privileges to them and help them get better, is something where the balance can come in. I still feel it's a skewed 70-30 ratio where we still get and fight our way through it because of support from family and friends and those around us. But down below, I work with farmers quite a bit in Maharashtra. And some of the farmers I work with, they have kids and the women aren't allowed to study after a point. The entire idea is to have her qualified enough to get a better husband, not to get her qualified to do something with her life. So at the end of the day, it again boils down to the same thing. First, we had a 10th pass girl, now we have a graduate girl just for a um, better husband.
All right. Jyotsa, would you like to say something, Siddharth?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think I'm resonating with Nikki and Jyotsna, what they've said. I think the question is also really about, I mean, in today's context and also within the feminist movement, right? I think we've done a lot of progress. We've made a lot of progress over the past few decades, but I think there is a long way to go when it comes to women's rights. Looking at the current political climate as well, I think, and also Indian society in general, women have always been treated as subordinate citizens, and that hasn't really changed. And I think also what if the dialogue that we're having, what defines a woman? I think that should be the question, because um, there's only like a representation imagery of women that fits into a very cis heteronormative and brahminical understanding of
Yeah.
what a woman should look like.
Correct.
And that imagery is also coming from this whole imagery of Hindu women, right? And how a woman, as a woman, has to be a bit, petite, slim, fair, with long hair. And obviously trans women gets excluded from that, but they're not even
Yeah.
seen as women, right? So I think there is a whole journey that we're on. I'm so grateful and indebted to the feminist movement and to the women who've championed and questioned within their private personal lives, which always go invisible, but also within the public spaces where they are doing the dialogue, really questioning, doing these everyday navigations within their own work and relationships. I think all of that, and now that we are somewhat beginning to understand the trans issues, I think there is a long way to go. And then there is also sort of intersectionality with caste and religion and the minority issues, right? And also who identifies as women. And I think all of these things, we there's a long way to go, and I think it's just about happening now. But as far as the normative understanding of women is concerned, or as well as the rights of women are concerned, they are still constantly being crushed, and the voice of dissent is being, the spaces have shrunk. And I think today we need to be talking about women's rights in a more inclusive, holistic way, to take this discourse forward. I think these are just two of my bits, but thank you for starting with questions, because I think we always get into the speaking, but I think it's so great to be starting with questions and getting straight into it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So the next question is, while growing up, almost all of us, we all have heard this phrase, women are their own worst enemies. So do you guys actually agree with that, or do you believe that it is another belief where patriarchy is the root cause of all of it?
See, I think it's a bit too simplistic to say that women are their own enemies. Here we were talking about, and at the end of the previous session, they all talked about the support structures, and I think none of us could have really got where we were without our support structures. And our most,
Exactly.
our best support structures are our moms, our mom-in-laws, our, a lot of the women staff at home, other women at work. I have always found, I mean, of course, there are supportive men around me too, but I think that uh, it's a positive attitude that you've got to reach out to. So if you don't sort of allow anyone, male or female, to think that you are better than them, but you're reaching out in a spirit of either needing help or telling them what your problem is, right? We don't have to be perfect all the time to think that I'm the superwoman and I can do everything, right? So it's okay, if I didn't blow dry my hair, or I didn't go and put on makeup before every single session that I have, because maybe I had a busy day today. We've got actually an exhibition going on and so many other things happening. So we don't have to think that we've got to have everything figured out all the time. And who do we reach out for that? Obviously, other women. So I definitely don't agree with this, and it is a patriarchal statement. I firmly agree.
I think for me, the last 2 years is when I kind of understood the importance of womanhood and sisterhood on a larger level. For me, before that, it was always, um, I always reached out to men for support and never to women, because I always felt that they weren't for you. With time, and COVID especially made me kind of realize how important it was to have that emotional, warm connection versus that black and white life, which it's either you just go get things done by yourself without any help, and that's what makes you a person. But that was coming so strongly from the entire patriarchal approach on how things have to work, that I can't be more thankful. In the last 2 years, the amount of growth I've seen as an individual has been far more, only because I reached out, and I never tried to do that before ever. So yeah, if 2 years back we had this conversation, I would say, yeah, women hate each other, but I think I would disagree this time.
I think same for me, a bit similar. I think growing up, I grew up a lot with boys, and they always had friends as men. And I think as I started growing up, that changed for me. I think it is a very patriarchal, misogynist construct that women are women's enemies. I think that there is so much internalization of patriarchy and misogyny within all of us, and the whole life is about undoing some of those things, right, every day. And I think we have so many inherent stereotypes, and the way we've been socialized into our society, into our families, of having certain expectations, and also the need to prove and need to be better than men. And I think that I firmly believe women are superior than men. So I don't want to compare myself to men, because the kind of bandwidth, labor, and work that we do, which always go invisibilized, it is invisibilized, and it goes really like in the back end of it. So I feel like it's also this way of like pitting women against each other, which patriarchal and its sort of apparatuses do. But I think that's where I feel that the lives and navigations of women are so double-edged in that way, that they have to constantly question, at least they question their internalized patriarchy, which I don't think men do. And also going beyond the binaries, right? Like I think we all have internalized phobias and these patriarchal constructs, and so women are constantly like fighting with other people as well as fighting them within themselves and with their own sisters, which I don't see men doing. So I think it's a way to sort of position that way, but I obviously think it's not true.
Also, this entire thing, I think we all notice, like, ever since we were kids, how women are pitted against each other for the smallest of things, like, she's prettier than you won't be as pretty as her. this entire thing, like everything boils down to your physical appearance, no matter how smart you are. Like they will still be like, but wo sundar to hai raha, that typical thing, when they look at a girl. So I think that also has a lot of it. Like this is how women end up thinking. They start comparing with each other. No matter, I've seen the prettiest of women, no matter how attractive, how perfect conventionally they might be, but they still feel like no. They still feel threatened by another woman, unfortunately, because of these things.
Absolutely
So
agree with you.
Yeah.
yeah. So I'll get to the next question now. Yeah. So does it get difficult for women to find a partner as they age? If yes, then why do you feel it happens?
I think it gets difficult for women to find partners the moment they go on their own journey of self discovery and learning about themselves and questioning the existing social um, constructs and conditioning. Whoever does that, life is only downhill from there. And I think that it is obviously difficult for women to find partners because as you're aging, you're also more firm. You have a little bit more money and economic independence, I hope. Talking about a certain class, but also you're not seen as the sexual body. You're seen as a body which is not pure and sacrosanct in that way. So it becomes nobody really cares in that way, right? And also, so then it becomes difficult for women to find partners. But I think it's also this fact that as you grow older, you become more mature and you have a certain ideas which you're very sure of. You don't want to compromise on values, at least. And you have a higher standard and benchmark to what kind of partner you want, and you're not
Exactly.
ready to
Yeah.
take crap. And I think that's what makes it difficult also, in my view.
Yeah, it definitely does get difficult, more so because we aren't malleable anymore to something that people could kind of shape us into, mostly partners or families of partners. And I feel that becomes obstructive. It gets intimidating for men that we know what we want. And ironically, I've heard that so much in the last couple of, like, in the last 2 3 years, where I've straight up been told that you know what you want to do, you're earning money. What is a guy gonna do? And I said nothing. Like, you don't have to take care of me. I just took away half your worry. But I feel that that doesn't go down well. Earlier this year, I was traveling to America, and that was the first time I was in a society where being your own self was appreciated. And I think I've not spent extended time as an adult in another country to see another culture or how cross culturally people live. That's when I realized somewhere that it's not only our country being a little behind on how we observe things. I think somewhere we've also taken the effort to learn, get better, and go ahead much faster than everybody else around us. And unfortunately, that's not a plus point over here. So yeah, it definitely does get highly difficult, especially if you're trying to look and how they kind of view you. It definitely does get.
Yeah, I hear you both, and though I agree with that, I'm really happy to see that younger girls now are actually asking for what older women would want in a
Yeah.
relationship, right? So it is so nice to see. I mean, we have a center in our village in Barabanki, which is about an hour outside Lucknow, and the girls, they want to study, they want careers, right? They want people who appreciate them for what they are. So if you can find women who are, in a rural area, who are thinking like that, and of course, I see girls in college here in Lucknow, in Delhi, in Bombay, and a lot of my friends say that, oh, our daughters are now 30, they are enjoying what they're doing. They don't want to settle for less, right? So this is a concept which is now starting much younger. So the concept, I think, is not of age. The concept is more about women realizing, like what you said, Jyotsna, Siddharth, that this is what we want, right? We know what we want, and we're not going to take rubbish from anyone, right? We are not going to be walkovers, and we're not going to be the only one like Atlas, holding the world on our shoulders. So if you're ready to, shoulder the load with me, I'm ready to come and be your partner. If you're not, I'm fine as I am.
I just want to add to that. I think I absolutely agree with you, but I think it's also, I mean, like you said, it's not about the age, right? I think it's about the maturity and also recognizing yourself as a person. I think I think with for trans women, it's again not about the age, right? I think for them to find partners is so difficult in present, and is always difficult because, well, they're not even considered to be women, and people don't want to date them, and I think men, women included. I think it's just this aspect of finding partners where they meet you halfway, as you're saying, Jyotsna, and I think that's really, really important.
Also because, like, how women are seen as a baby vessel, even though people might not accept it. So this aging thing, like, I'm like, my mom was like, biologically it's not right for you to get married late. I was like, that has nothing to do with biology. Me not like getting married at the right age. And like, even when I meet, whether it's a dating app or anyone, all the men I meet, all of them want a baby, but none of them are ready to settle on time. I mean, then they want someone younger. So it's, that kind of thing. I'm like, okay, decide, what do you want? You want someone, but at the same time, if I want to date someone younger, even if it's someone 5 years younger, for me, it'll be, the guy will be bragging about it, like, oh, I'm dating an older woman. If I date someone 5 years older, I don't go out thinking, oh, I'm dating an older man, do I? I don't do that. So this entire thing is so confusing that even when so it takes time. For example, I think all of us, like, most of us are in our 30s. So, and being either like, I am definitely a single woman in her 30s. So, like, when I meet people, and this has become my life now. Like, recently, someone told me about how that if by 35, that won't be the right age because for having a baby. I was like, have you heard of freezing eggs? But I'm talking about natural way. And then I was like, okay, natural way. So what is more natural than giving birth? Like, it's still like natural birth, right? So, and then talking about trans women at the same time, like that movie, I'm sure you might have watched the movie Kare Ashiki. So I just watch it to see how they make it. But for it's a start for the Indian audience, because obviously we can't go deep in through it to make them understand. So I watched that, and at the same time, the first thing was like, even though she was a woman, she is a woman, the guy would still be like, "Tu ladka hai." The first thing, I was like, why don't you accept it? Like, a woman is a woman. Why do you have to the typical construct around gender? So yeah, finding a guy, it's not about aging, just aging. It's actually finding a girl. Actually, that's easier.
So I'll just add
Don't
something
judge.
here. No, Parthavi, we are not all in our 30s. I'm actually 45, and I am married with two kids. But a lot of my friends, from school and college, who could be in their early 40s or even in their mid 40s, and who are not married. So this was a conversation that we had where people are under pressure, where they're told, and their doctors have told them, and they realize the biological clock is ticking. But see, now you have to realize, what are you going to do? It's not like you can't go to a mall and pick out somebody and say, that's it now, I'm ready
Exactly.
to get married. So let's just pick out this guy and go ahead and have a baby. So this is a decision that you make for the rest of your life. You can't make a decision like that. And I have to give you the example of this amazing friend of mine who decided that, since she hasn't found the right partner, she went ahead and, she got a donor and she had a baby because she wanted to be a mom. Now, I mean, we're going to talk about that later. Not all women want to be a mother, but if you want a
Exactly.
partner just to have a baby, you don't need a partner to have a baby, right? As long as you have the support system and you're, financially stable. So I think sometimes women also are looking for partners for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Also,
I
because
also feel
having
that.
a baby, even being a single mother, again, being a single mother is again a difficult. Even though she is perfectly fine and everything, the society will try to pull her down for just being able to, even though she can do everything and none of them can provide. Like, for example, someone like Shushmita Sen, people still question, right? Even though she has brilliantly raised two daughters. So it's not exactly as easy. The point is how it is difficult no matter what you do. So I'll go to the next question now. So why is it important to highlight and focus on inclusivity based on caste and gender? Jyotsna, would you like to take the question, Siddharth?
I Yeah, I was thinking. I guess I keep saying this, that as we're born in this country, we're born with two things, two labels. One is caste, and the other is gender. And we all have a caste, and we all have a gender. And I guess I don't know about other people, but I'm constantly trying to navigate and question what those identities mean, why they are there, because they are not self addressed or self claimed. They are being given to you, and your whole life goes into questioning why are they given to you, what does that, because it has a bearing of who you can be, how you can live your life, what kind of opportunities you would have. Also, being a Dalit queer woman, what spaces can I navigate into? Then also, like, so many things, right? Like, how do you look? Why do you look in a certain way? How can you look? Like, what is the limits of what you can be? All of that is defined by your caste and by your gender. And I think that it's important to question those, because they're fairly limiting and unfair to the limits of, and to have an experience of being a human, being a person, being a woman. I don't want to be limited by these constructs, which are things that I didn't ask for, but it constantly shapes and limits my life, and inhibits me, protects me from having access to a lot of things, right? Education, health, career opportunities, and also then depends upon the geography, like where are we located? Are we in urban space or are in rural space? And then that sort of continues. And I think that's why it's important, because it's important to coexist, it's important to live together, and we're not all the same, and we all need to make space for each other to be able to live in a civil but in a nice, compassionate way, because we share this planet, we share this society, and we share resources, we share all of those things, right? So I guess that conversation is extremely important.
So,
Yeah,
like,
I. Sorry, go on.
sorry. So I was
No, no, go on. Go on.
reading this book. Did we lose Jyotsna? What happened?
Yeah, we lost both of them somehow.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. I think they'll join back. Jyotsna is back. I'm waiting for the other Jyotsna, but we can talk till then. So, Jyotsna, did you hear the question about gender and caste?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry
Okay,
about
we
that.
have Jyotsna
Uh,
back. No, okay.
some disconnect suddenly. So I
Yeah.
think what's really important is, you know, the stereotypes, of course, are there, right? One thing is it's about speaking up, you know. So if you hear somebody making a comment that you feel, goes against, somebody else's, self. You are supposed to say that it's wrong, right? So often we are silent when we see wrong behavior or when we hear the way people talk. It's those kind of behavior we are actually enabling. We may not be doing it ourselves, but we are enabling that kind of behavior by allowing people to continue to talk like that, right? I think Jyotsna Siddharth was in the middle of what she was saying, so shall we have her finish what she was saying before we carry on?
She's back,
Um,
right?
sure, I'm
Jyotsna?
back. I'm not sure where you lost me. I
Yeah.
a bunch of things.
All right. So, yeah, Jyotsna was just telling us, but you want to speak more about it, or should I let Jyotsna continue and you can join in? Uh, should I let Jyotsna Kaur speak and then you join in?
No, no, let Jyotsna Siddharth finish because she was in the middle of her
Yeah.
discussion on gender, and I think she has a very valid point to make. So,
No,
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you lost me, but I'll just try to summarize. Essentially, what I was saying was that in our society, we're born with two identities, which are, and also three, but primarily two, which is gender and caste. And our own, I mean, it's not like people from the dominant caste don't have a caste, right? And I think that our entire life it goes into navigating these two constructs which are not self-claimed but imposed by society on us, and how what can we do and experience life and have this human experience of being alive is all determined by these two constructs, and they constantly limit to what we can achieve or not achieve, or who we can be or cannot be. And which is why this discourse is so important, because as a society we live together, we should be able to live together and coexist with all our differences, and honor the social contract that we all kind of abide by, even through constitution. But I guess more and more we're seeing that that's not happening. And I guess to be able to build this equitable society where we want everyone to be equal or have equal opportunities, we require some of these conversations to become an everyday practice.
Also, do you feel like the even when it comes to gender and caste, uh, but among all the castes, even in like under that category also, how women are oppressed differently, like in every caste itself. Like there's casteism, then there's under that also women are oppressed differently, like even if it's like some, for example, how this is like any of the communities which are looked upon as a lower caste, uh, even in those marginalized communities, how there also women are treated. It's like, so how do you prioritize? Would you put gender first or caste first? It's a very confusing question.
I think for me, it goes together. Like, I cannot see caste without gender. I cannot see gender
Yeah,
without caste. So for me, it's caste
exactly.
gender or casting gender or gendering caste
Yeah,
rather than choosing, because both your identities are quite prominent and inseparable and makes you who you are, right? I mean, I'm a woman of a Dalit community. So I cannot separate myself from my community or the historic, uh, you know, historicity of the discrimination and abuse, which continues in different ways. But I think I share that with the women of other marginalized communities, of Muslim women or trans women or like Adivasi women or women who are working on the road as daily wage laborers. I think these are all of those things that become crucial and are not part of the discourse of women in that sense.
yeah. Also, like when it comes to
another
caste, how people become like, there are many people, of course, the privileged ones. I heard it from someone, and when they say things like, but today's date, at least I don't treat them differently. I was like, but that's not the point. The point is, if you belong to a particular community, where if you even try to share the same table to have a meal with another person from an upper caste, or if you are demeaned for that, if you're treated as dirt. And when my friend was like, but that never happens, I don't do that. I was like, that's the point. You will never know because you don't belong to that community. You are not killed for your caste. I'm an upper caste Hindu. I'm not going to get killed for being a Rajput in India. It is a privilege. Being woman might not be a privilege, but then my caste again saves me. So, yeah, Jyotsna, were you saying something?
Yes, even in the economic, if you look at sort of ownership of industries and enterprises, so even if we look at that, it's still very skewed, where definitely the so-called lower castes have a much lower ownership, than of course there's been this whole OBC uh, sort of quotas which came up, which actually led to businesses being owned by certain, castes. But um, this is we're still lagging far behind, equality and caste. So it's not enough. Of course, there's an attitude change that's required, but there's a lot of policy changes also that are required to bring this up to power.
All right. Nikki, would you like to
Yeah.
say something?
Yeah, I was um, while you're both talking, I was thinking about how society has systems for us to coexist in harmony, and somehow these systems have become identities, and these identities have further pulled us more back versus forward, which makes me think that how much is system really helping us actually grow forward versus benefiting only those who already have privilege and helping them go ahead, which continuously tries to take away from those who don't have. So, like Jyotsna Kaur said, that systemically things have to change because those who are down below, how much ever they scream, the ones that are up have to hear and actually push this movement a lot more. So, gender and caste are things that um, those who don't go through have to fight for it furthermore for the ones that are down below to actually be heard. Because after some time, for us, that just becomes noise and it loses its charm when they are speaking for themselves. So, for even in the entire idea of feminism, I feel we can scream and yell as much as we want, but even if two more men speak on your behalf, the entire movement further gets uh, pushed, and that really, really helps. You'll see women behave, walk, and do things differently when they know their fathers, their husbands, or their guy friends are supporting them. So I mean, I just feel gender and caste were to help us identify each other, and now that's become such a core part of who we are that we are binded by it more, and we're not able to get ourselves out of it.
All right. Thank you so much. So the next question is, which I think all of you will be able to relate to. Is it easy being a strong, independent, self-made woman, or do the struggles get worse?
I
Jyotsna
don't
Kaur,
really
would you
think
like
it
to?
gets worse. I mean, see, obviously it depends on like what we all the things that you're talking about. That what's your background. What sort of support system do you have? What kind of education and what are you sort of what access do you have? So being strong and independent, it's all it depends on all these different things. So when all these things fit together, of course you can be strong and independent. Otherwise you're battling so many things all the time that it sometimes becomes something, for instance, there's a Harvard survey which talks about women and men at the workplace, and where men are seen as they give people a whole range of um, circumstances, and then they ask them to rate this person on their behavior without knowing if they're a man or a woman. I mean, telling them that they're a man or a woman. Now the moment it's a man, then his behavior is confident and he's seen as assertive, and everything that's positive is attributed to him. But the moment it's a woman doing the same things, suddenly she's aggressive, and she's loud, and she's bossy. It's exactly the same traits, it's exactly the same situations, right? So why is that? That's just because a woman who's successful is seen as that, right? So this is something that we've got to continue to battle with. Just because we are independent and successful, a man is independent and successful, nobody questions him. Men are just supposed to be independent and successful, right? So men don't
Yeah.
carry that burden of everything. He doesn't have to look perfect all the time. I think so. A woman has to work like a horse and look half her age, and I mean, whereas all these are not expectations that are there from men. We have to work doubly as hard to make sure that our work is measured and our work is visible. So it's just, I think it's something that women have to live with, that if we want to be successful, we have to ensure that we have to fight it out. I don't know when that's going to change, but it hasn't changed yet. So we've got to continue to fight it out.
Yeah, and this typical notion of successful women end up alone. I'm sure many of us have heard that, So
Yeah.
again, and I am seeing all successful women over here. Jyotsna is married, but then again, you know what I'm saying, right? So, yeah, Nikki, would you like to say something about this?
Yeah, I feel like we've also taken it upon ourselves somewhere. Once we get strong and independent, we feel like we can't ask for help, and it kind of comes back to where we were at. I feel like if you're able to just do that much for ourselves and put ourselves before everybody else, I think we'll do ourselves a favor and just be a little less burdened, because by default we know we can multitask, we can do a lot of things at once. So instead of proving that, if we could just share the load or ask for help, I think that really helps. Because this notion of being successful and single is also something that's told to us so many times that we kind of manifest that for ourselves also, where we are also projecting that everywhere we go. We think differently also because of that. So I feel like somewhere, if we could not only identify ourselves with these kind of terms and definitions, but leave that on the side and operate as individuals and not take up the entire part of being identified by these terms, I feel it'll really help us as well. There's only this much other people can do for us to make us feel better or lighten, but there's some place where we need to stand up for ourselves before we stand up for everybody else.
Yeah, because many of us, we end up being our moms. Like when I was a kid, I'll see my mom being all busy and this, she'll eat, even though she's a woman, it doesn't really matter. Why would they care? So everyone's done with their dinner and then she'll finally sit. And I used to be like, never going to become like her when I grow up. And today I'm known as the mother of every, like in all my friend circles. And I realized I've turned into another version of her. And Jyotsna Siddharth is my friend, so she knows about this. So, yeah, Jyotsna, would you like to say something?
We've got to stop ourselves from doing, right? Because as women, many of us are naturally nurturing, but you can't nurture other people at the cost of yourself, right? So this concept,
Exactly.
me really angry. This concept of saying, yeah, I have two boys, they are 13 and 15. Yes, of course, I have done things for them, but I did things for them to teach them to do things for themselves. So this idea of the mom sitting there, doing things for everybody all the time while everybody's sitting and relaxing, this is a concept we've got to change, right? So I
Correct.
speak to many young people at colleges, and the change that I've seen that's come over the last decade, where you would ask boys earlier, what do you do around the house? From saying that I help out my mom, they've started saying, I take responsibility for this, right? Because you don't help out in your own house. The concept of saying you help out means you're doing somebody else's work. Why is it somebody else's work, right?
Yeah.
It's your work too. So this is something that this has to change from each one of us. We've got to make this change.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Jyotsna, would you like to say something? Because we have like 3-4 minutes left.
Yeah, I just want to say I agree with all the panelists, and I think that this independent, strong woman thing is a trap that we are constantly falling into, because men do not do everything by themselves. That's an assumption, that's a myth, because we have all kind of formal, informal institutions supporting them. You have, as men have the right to property, inheritance, and so many other things. There's always labor of women going into supporting their careers, their relationships, crisis management, emotional management, all kind of things. So it's a false narrative that if a man says I'm self-made, because nobody is self-made. You're using labor of many other people, not just women, to be able to become somebody. So I think as women we need also to build as many support systems as we need, both financially, non-financially, indirect, direct, all kinds of institutions. We need as much support and more, because we're also, as you know, not all of us are same, but I think we're all invested in many, many other things, and it's not possible to do all of that alone. And I think this is also one of the needs, and was a sort of narrative that came in with with the first wave, second wave feminism, and there has been a progress made where we no longer want to just keep proving. We also want to live our lives, because so much work has been done, and we want
Yeah.
accountability from society, from men, to share the work, because I don't want to keep like cleaning after someone, and I don't want to keep doing their added burden. And who's doing mine? I'm also going to hire some domestic help, who's again a woman, to share that burden, right? So I think in some ways we all need to be go towards accountability for our things, and men need to be far more independent, which I don't think they are. But that's a myth, that they are very self-made and very independent. I think there's an invisibilized labor of all kinds of people, including women, which is going unnoticed. So I think it's a trap which we should refrain from sometimes, and ask, like as all Nikki and Jyotsna were also saying, ask when you need something, and also really put forward, this is my need. I need you to do this. And not doesn't limit just to a partner, but also to family, to friends, and to build that support system, I think is important.
All right. Thank you so much, all of you. It was actually great having and like all three of you. And I'm sure, like, I don't know if people will learn something or not, but at least they got a point of view. Like, people think you just have to put it in the head. They'll think about it later. So thank you so much, and I shall now head on to the next panel for Ninna to head. All right.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Thank you so much. Bye.
So all of yeah. So everyone, stay tuned for the next act, being "Wellbeing Secrets: Mind, Body, and Soul" by Nina Claire.
Thank you so much for moderating the previous panel, Parthavi. I think the note on which you ended, that basically, for those of you who are tuning in, Parthavi just moderated the panel on womanhood. And I'm so happy that we spoke about this topic, because one is constantly learning. I never thought of the lens of caste when we're talking about womanhood. So I think you're absolutely right, Parthavi, that sometimes we just have to put it out there. We put it in people's heads and they start thinking about it. So thank you, Parthavi. And now for our third panel of the day, which is on well-being secrets to do with the mind, the body, and the soul. I'm super excited to have this stellar panel that managed to come together for today. So Devasmita Sinha is our hi, Devasmita. Thank you so much for joining us. Such a pleasure. Devasmita is a
Hello.
psychologist. So Devasmita Sinha is a psychologist and clinical director for Mana Wellness. And Mana Wellness is also our well-being partner for this panel. So thank you so much for joining in, Devasmita.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Pooja Makhija, a celebrity nutritionist, author, and entrepreneur. She runs her platform Nourished by Pooja Makhija, where she gives amazing advice on what you should put in your body. And I love your line, Pooja, where you talk about you're not only what you eat, but you're also what you cheat. Thank you, Pooja. And
Most
we have
welcome.
with us Sumaya Dalmia, one of the leading fitness and wellness experts in the country and founder of Delhi's first state-of-the-art personal training studio. She's the face behind the well-known brand Sumaya. I know she had a live.
Hey,
Hi, Sumaya.
how
Thank
are
you so much.
you? How are you? Not at all. How are you?
Very well. So back-to-back conversations for you, Sumaya. Hectic
Back to
afternoon
back
slash evening.
conversations for me, but it's the Saturdays are for conversation, so it's exciting.
Lovely. Thank you for joining in. So we have about 40 minutes to go, and I want to make the most of it. So going to start off with you, Sumaya. I really believe in the power of storytelling. And I think what we witnessed the last 2 years, right? The way gyms have been ravaged. And I know you've been personally and professionally affected by COVID. So I'd love for you to talk about how you've taken care of your own well-being, Sumaya.
Uh, I think well-being and fitness and wellness is something that I've just grown up with from being into professional sport to following this on as my career. So it's something that stayed with me. Consistency is key. So I've never had any on and off moments. Of course, I've had days which are not so active and days which are active. So for me, fitness has stayed alongside who I am, makes a lot of who I am also. Coming to COVID, I think it's affected everyone, not just the fitness industry. Actually, if anything else, people woke up to actually realizing that wellness was beyond just aesthetically how you looked. It was beyond how you trained. It was a lot to do with your immunity, and immunity is an amalgamation of many things. It's an amalgamation of handling your stress. It's an amalgamation of how active you are. It's an amalgamation of how well you eat. So people actually realize that being well is the need of the hour for for the future. And if something like this could strike us in a very educated modern world, that we were actually going to be living through a pandemic, I mean, who would have thought that? So I think what the pandemic has done is really woken us all up, and made a lot of things easier for professionals like us, that wellness is here to stay. Wellness is something that we all need to invest in. And it's not just about fitness, it's not just about food, it's about who you are in general, your mental well-being, how well you sleep, how good your gut is, how much do you exercise. I hope you don't over exercise, because that was also a big learning. We lost a couple of friends who were said to have been struck post COVID, and people who were exercising. So I think just in general, it's been a wake-up call at many levels in a good way. And that's been there for all of us. And personally, I woke up on Instagram. So the personal side of it is that, I always was someone who shied away from Instagram. You've seen that. So I'm an Instagram baby. I woke up, I was obviously doing the same amount of work pre-COVID, but it's just that now I, came onto Instagram because I realized that, oh my God, there may be a way that, all my offline work might just be pushed away in COVID, and I needed to make, my presence felt. And so I'm an Instagram baby, and I'm 2 years old, and that's also fun.
No, I think that's wonderful, Sumaya. I've seen you grow, and that's the irony, right, of social media, that you could be very, very successful offline, but in today's day and age, and I feel somewhat, that the last 2 years, if you're not seen online, it's almost as if you're nobody. In fact, I was having a conversation.
It's like your website holds, your website means nothing. It's just static. Your offline business is there. And considering we work really hard, I'm sure all the professionals on this panel, we work really hard. We have proper jobs. Instagram is just a platform to kind of showcase what we do. But on an everyday life, I wouldn't even call myself an influencer. I would just be like by default a educator maybe. So it's crazy. I felt that need to get out there and say, hello, I exist, and I've been there now for over 22 years. So don't forget me.
Seriously, but you've done a super job, and you got verified and didn't even talk about it. So kudos to you, Sumaya. You're bloody humble. So,
No, thank you.
okay, Pooja, like I was talking about how your content is just absolutely amazing and it's digestible, no pun intended. So when it comes to tailoring diets, what do you find that works best for people?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me on this panel. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to like-minded people. To the question that what do I think makes plans work, I think practicality is the most important one. Food is essential, but we don't really realize how important it is till we start fueling the right way. So to most, food is has to be a easy accessory that goes on comfortably with our um, roller coaster lives, and we all have packed in more than we can handle. We wear multiple hats and we know how to juggle them well. We somewhere put food a little bit on the back burner because we have so many other apples to keep up in the air. The one thing that really works is the fact that your meal plans have to be practical. It has to be something that is on a day-to-day basis available in your kitchen. So if I'm going to tell you that every day you've got to go out and go to the exotic supermarket and get those exotic fruits and vegetables and then make a nutritious meal for yourself and your family, you may or may not do it as often as you'd like to. And truth be told, our Indian thalis are the best, most nutritious ways to feed this human body. Yes, it has not been medically published in journals that the best diet is the Indian diet. That's maybe because we really haven't funded as many studies as the Mediterranean diet or blah blah diets or the French diets have. But really, our thalis are the most balanced ones. Our forefathers ate on point to nutrition. Like every book, every rule in the book was followed, knowingly or unknowingly. It's miraculous how good our diets are. So I just have to pull people back and say, hey, let's not wander. Let's go back to the way our parents and our grandparents ate. Let's go back to basics. Our staple Indian cuisine, our staple Indian herbs, spices are the most nurturing way to eat. And that automatically makes people sustain it because somewhere those are baएं हाथ का खेल, so they automatically just weave and imbibe into it.
Pooja, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on calorie counting?
It's ridiculous, and I don't calorie count, and I don't recommend calorie counting. I don't recommend calories in. I don't talk about calories out. My meal plans don't show you the calorie count at all because food is not calories. That's the most disrespectful way to look at food, is when you make food calories. Food is nurture, food is love, food is giving back to this body who gives you so much. So we can't devalue something as important as food the minute you tag on and say, eat a 1200 calorie diet. This chapati has 150 calories. This dal has no, not at all. Learn to eat. Okay, I'm not saying calories are not important. Calories are important for the nutritionist to do her math, or just for you to understand portion sizes. If you don't want to go to a nutritionist, just for you to get a basic understanding, understand portion sizes, understand basic calories, make a chart in terms of portion sizes for yourself, and then juggle and play with that. Don't say, oh, I burnt. Oh, I hear that ever so often. My treadmill said I did a 400 calorie workout today, so I can afford to eat that laddu or that pie. Because when you will count calories out, then you will think that you deserve to cheat and put calories in. So very simply put, initially I used to make my meal plans counting calories myself. So every meal plan, I was a calculator in my head. But that took a toll on my well-being because I was a walking, talking calorie scanner. Everywhere I went, someone opening a tiffin box and I would be, I'll be like, okay, 400 calories. I'd go to a party and someone would be taking a buffet, this thing, and I'd scan the plate and say 3,000 calories. And because I was all day counting calories in my head, and I was like, I'm going to go cuckoo with this myself. So I just stopped. And this is not now when computers have become such an essential part of it, but I found a programmer about 20 years ago and said, hey, make me an software or an app that will count calories for me. Here, suck out this information from my head, put it into a app that will count the calories. I will just put one roti and it will do the math at the back, and I don't want to know how many calories that one roti has, so that I I was losing my mind counting calories, and I didn't want anyone to do that as well, and I didn't want to do it for myself. So I stopped doing it, and I don't recommend doing it at all. I don't count calories. I don't teach my children that this roti is X calories and that bread is X calories. Food is fuel. Learn portion sizes and then eat to nurture.
Yeah, and Pooja, I'm going to come back to you in a bit because you're talking about losing your mind, and I do want to talk about the relationship between mental health and food. But David Smith, I'd like to talk to you now about, are there any particular mental health challenges that you see women face in particular? And if you could just elaborate a little bit about that, please, since we do want to touch upon all aspects of well-being.
Right. Thank you so much, Nina. Also a pleasure to be here. And before I answer your question, Pooja, it was so reassuring hearing you speak that you don't have to count calories, just, know your portions in the Indian diet's wonderful. Because I always feel guilt. I think that's one guilt I carry constantly with me. But coming back to your question, I think, the answer to this, all of us intuitively know. It's not a surprising one. What I see most among women at workplace is burnout. And the reason behind that, again, very predictable, is that, like Sumaya was saying, that we take on more than we can handle. And that also comes from this. I was just actually listening to the previous panel, and a few of them were talking about how we take on more, and there's this pressure to prove ourselves, to be this person who's able to handle everything, intergenerational beliefs. So that carries on, and it has just intensified so much during the pandemic and the 2 years of being home and working from home. It has been a nightmare for women. And it continues to be so. And there are a lot of these reels that I see about women going back to work. Most women actually just want to go back to work. They're done with working from home because it's no comfort. It's not easy at all. So what I see is, yes, burnout, because there's an unfair load of domestic and caregiving responsibilities and an unfair pressure to prove yourself at the workplace, to be equally productive as your male colleagues are. So both put together, there's no space for anything else, no time for yourself, no time to do the things that, will bring you some joy. That's not sustainable. So yeah, that's what is happening very often.
So, Devsita, I want to understand a little bit about what you're doing at Mana Wellness.
Right. So a lot of things, but one thing that is sort of related to what we're talking about here today is we try to create habits around work-life blend in very sort of, small bite-sized bits. One of the things that we are doing right now is we're doing these wellness sessions, wellness challenges, which run for about like half an hour every day, once in the morning and once in the evening. And they're not specially for women, but it's a great idea to just block that time on your calendar and take that time out for yourself. Be part of a community where you can share, talk, feel comforted, feel heard. Just knowing that there are so many other people who are going through the same struggle and with no real solution at sight is also sometimes very helpful. So just that whole the connectedness that comes from these communities is also wonderful, apart from some insights or some habits that you might pick up. So I think that is one of the most helpful things that can be especially for women, since we're talking about women today.
So, Devasmita, I'm hearing you talk, and I made a couple of notes. When you're talking and you're saying small doses, right? I'm thinking of micro dosing. And the last
Yes.
2 years, people have been talking a lot about micro dosing, even when it comes to psychedelics, right?
Mm.
But I'm not going in that direction. But I realized that even taking small breaks is so helpful. So what I've started doing is, on my phone, I've got alerts from Calm at 3 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, telling me to calm the hell down. Just a little alert. So I think when you set aside times in the day just to take a break, that's very, very helpful, because I'm so wired all the time, and I think it's really helpful to just take micro breaks is what I.
Absolutely. And I think just to add to that, the idea that women can multitask so well is also a myth. No one can really, our brains are not equipped to multitask. We're able to, like you were saying, keep a lot of apples in the air, right? But that is also very exhausting. And taking that time out, like you said, either short breaks or I think what women do is that they don't take breaks frequently enough. Consistency is missing, so they would take maybe one, they look forward to the weekend, Saturday Sunday I'm going to chill, but no, you need to do that every day. You need to do that like 4 times a day for maybe 10-15 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Sumaya, I want to come to you that I've noticed, right? One sees your life on social media, right? So everybody has a window into your life. And it seems like you're, oh, lost Sumaya. I was going to ask her about the fact that she seems like she's constantly on. I guess she'll join us back. Yes. So Pooja, in the same vein of mental health, I'm going to ask you this question that, and Pooja, if you remember when I met you in Lucknow, I was going through some big dramatic breakup and I didn't have a history of being bulimic, but suddenly with this horrible narcissistic experience, I became bulimic to the point of my mother's listening. Holy shit, I totally forgot. She doesn't know this, but anyway, mother, I'm fine now. But but what happened was I was puking my guts out to the point of my blood coming from my throat and from my nose, which is bloody scary, right? And I'm okay. I mean, I spoke to my therapist, didn't need medication, but we worked around it. So I want you to talk a little bit about the relationship between mental health and eating disorders, if you could, please.
So there's a massively strong connection between what you eat and how you feel and therefore how you eat. Um, Initially, it was first told to us that your brain is the epicenter, right? That it is the brain that commands how you think and feel, and therefore what you pick up and what you eat. And your brain controls you. With a lot of functional medicine and a lot of studies and a lot of studying between the pathway of the gut and the brain and gut access through the vagus nerve, as it has been studied, we are now told that for every one signal that the brain gives the gut sends 9 signals back to the brain. Okay. So, very clearly, how you eat has a far stronger influence on your mind than your mind has on your choices of what you eat. Are you understanding? Right? Because your gut is giving you a constant feedback, your anger, irritability, moods, food choices, reflex actions, anger, just suddenly breaking out into a yell or a scream has a lot to do with what you have eaten and what is sitting in your gut. So there's an extremely massively strong connect. I'm not saying mental health is not important, it's massively important, but just addressing mental health in terms of counseling and proper medication if needed is not the only way till you don't correct the food you're putting into your system. Because if the food that's going in is all wrong, all the emotions that are coming out with the wrong messages being sent from the gut to the brain, the healing is becoming difficult, the healing is becoming slower, the healing requires more aid. But if you learn the art of eating well and therefore having a calmer mind, having more serotonin being produced, because 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. So, serotonin is your calming hormone. Now, if 90% of it is between 70 and 90, there are various studies that say various numbers. So, between 70 and 90% is produced in your gut. But if my gut is not being nurtured to make good quantity of serotonin, then I'm constantly edgy, tired, and crabby. So, food has a massive influence on your mental health, and we've got to realize that, because mental health is something that everyone needs to talk about. Make it, of course, make it accessible, make it open, make it acceptable. But without good nutrition, mental health is partial. So, please address food when you talk about helping people achieve emotional stability, mental stability, all of it. Coming to eating disorders, of course, eating disorders stems from how you look at yourself in the mirror. Okay, so it's definitely your image of yourself. So whether it's anorexia nervosa or it's bulimia, it stems from my relationship with food and my relationship with myself. And if I'm not happy with the way I look, or at least I don't see the way, I'm not happy the way I'm looking, then automatically I have this love hate relationship with food, where I eat food that I love and then I hate myself for doing that, and therefore purge it out, as in the case of bulimia, or I just absolutely refuse to eat any food because I'm so scared of that one ingredient that is giving me nurture. I'm just equating it to calories, and I just think the minute I eat one roti, I have put on weight, or if I eat rice, I have put on weight, or I have a punch. So they are both very, very connected. They both require physiological, psychological counseling, as well as a physiologically apt diet, and it can be very easily done. It is something that sounds very difficult, but with the right guidance, with the right nutrition, with the right help, it can be very tactfully addressed, and you can be put on the right relationship with food, because we all have this skewed relationship with food. Food is our best friend, food is our emotional buster, food is our boredom buster, food is celebration, food is comfort, food is PMS comfort, food is everything. We've given food a very high darja in life, where it's not needed, and but we're not giving it the right darja where it's actually needed. So learning these relationships with food is the epitome of being able to successfully manage your life and not putting your life in the ologist world, whether it is the diabetologist, cardiologist, psychologist, nutritionist. We're just handing our lives away to doctors because we are not learning the art to eat well.
Wow.
I can go on and on talking, so I'm just.
Yeah, no, Pooja, but Pooja, it's so interesting. So obviously, you're a nutritionist, you eat right, and look at the way you speak. I know that I kind of have this love-hate relationship with food. So the way I speak, the way I conduct my life is also reflected, right? So it's so important to have balance there. I mean, this thought occurred to me as I was noticing the way you conduct yourselves. Very interesting.
Thank you. We have to,
So Maya,
the minute I just want to highlight this, that we have given food a lot of wrong connections to ourselves. uh, Learning the right path of weight loss, or I want beautiful skin, or I want better immunity in COVID times, or I want to learn fitness better, all of that is all great, but the first relationship that we all need to fix is to understand, what is food to you? What does food do to you? I just wish it was taught to us in school, instead of teaching us history and I don't know what all that was taught to us. I wish they taught us human physiology. How does your liver work? How does your kidney work? What does high protein do to your kidney? What does high fat do to your liver? What Please understand that every time we eat, we are giving our body information for it to work fine, or information for it to go downhill. And if we just understand that one relationship right with food, that food is nurture, and we are eating food to be able to live life to the best quality we can, and food is nothing that tickles us here, but something that nurtures us all the way through mind, body, and soul, automatically we'll be able to conquer health. Right now we've just let our health go, but we can just grab it back if we just learn this one relationship with food, which is not rocket science, which is not something that requires you to come to a nutritionist or to do a course in nutrition. It's really very basic, but you just have to understand it first, to say that I am eating not because I don't have the time, or I have too much time, or I have this love hate relationship. I am eating because I want to be able to live life to the best quality that I can.
how lovely. Put a highlight this in one of our capsule videos. So Maya, we lost you for a bit, and Devasmita was talking about taking breaks. So one is privy to your life, right? Seeing you on social media, and it seems like you're constantly on. So Maya, do you take breaks? And what does a
Of
break look
course,
like for Sumaya? What does a break look like for Sumaya?
no, of course. I mean, taking a cue from what Pooja says, it
Hmm?
just I think workout, food, everything it requires a little deep understanding. Like the fitness industry in itself has taken such a huge boom from when I started to what it is now, right? Teenagers want to exercise, teenagers want to eat right. I had a 10-year-old, one of my younger daughter is 10. Her friend walked in and say, "Oh, auntie, I'm not eating carbs." And little did she realize that carbs means fruits and vegetables, which she just meant saying, "Okay, I'm not eating grains." But I found that really odd, and at some level, I found that deeply disturbing because I was just like, while there's a way of looking at it that it's great. I wish my parents told us how to eat well and not to stay away and to stay away from the junk food. But that was all a part of growing up, and all of a sudden, I feel that innocence is kind of taken away, especially from parents who have had girls. There's so much pressure. So I think there needs to be a very big education and a voice out there which says that look, it needs to be balanced. It's not exercise anorexia is also something. Exercise overload is also something. A lot of people, I'm sure Pooja will agree with me, is that a lot of times people have issues losing weight because they're over exercising and their cortisol levels are at all-time high, because at the end of the day, when you're over exercising, you are putting a lot of stress on your body. Exercise is stress. It's a kind of a physical stress. So all of us, all these people who are now all of a sudden, especially during lockdown when everybody was going crazy doing HIIT as an everyday workout. HIIT has a very specific space in the exercise pyramid. It's a workout that it's done to challenge your heart. It's a workout that needs to happen maybe once a week as a part of your routine. But it's not a workout that you do all the time, because you will end up having a non-rested body, raised cortisol levels, disturbance in sleep, nutritional deficiencies if you're not fueling for that workout well enough. So again, these are all the things. So coming back to the question that you asked me, I've always been about balance. Of course, in the 20s, I always felt that I was invincible and, I could spend hours on the field and hours in training. But, being a woman and being a mother and going through pregnancies are very humbling experiences. Injuries are a humbling experience. They teach you, how to be intelligent. They teach you how to be prioritized, and they teach you how to understand that the right amount, in my case, less is more, is the right balance. So like Pooja was also saying, it's not really about being obsessive. It's about finding that balance which is actually beneficial to you rather than being harmful. And I'm sure Pooja sees that a lot. There's so much information overload now with intermittent fasting, ketogenic diets. I mean, I get that all the time. Can I do this? Can I do that? I think now as professionals, we're disengaging you more with what's available on the internet. And actually, that's become more our job, trying to educate you. Well, that is why it's done, and that is why you should be doing this. And intermittent fasting is about this, and it's not a weight loss tool. It's beyond a weight loss tool. You need to. So there's a lot of that happening, and I think now the discussions that we're having are more about trying to educate people about balance, educate people about you need to understand what is that works for you. Four of us on this platform may have the same goals, which may be to look good, feed well, but we all have different ways of getting around it. Your injury limitations, my injury limitations, time commitment, priorities, they're very different. So exercise, nutrition, it's all very unique, each one of us, and that DNA is really unique. Like for example, nutritionally, if you ask me, something as simple as a green apple just doesn't work for me. It gives me a lot of indigestion, it gives me a lot of acidity, but green apple is healthy, and it's a holy grail for some, but it's a vice for me, So that understanding and to be able to look at professionals for health is now really the time, is now what is balanced. So I'm off a lot of times. It just seems that I'm on, but I'm off, and I've learned that less is more, and I've learned that in my 40s, it is I'll do myself more harm if I overdid it. I don't want to get injured at this point. I want everyone to also realize that training is not about overtraining and what you see on Instagram. So that's how I curated my Instagram page. My Instagram page is not about see what I can do. It's about, I think, what you should do. Things that are simple, things that are fitness is made very intimidating on social media now. You need to do crazy things, a 16-inch box jump, a 20-inch box. And actually not, you need to really go back to the basics of just moving about, and just making sure that you're active, making sure you're walking, making sure you're getting your strength training in, making sure, of course, you do a HIIT session. But it's really coming back to me to make...
Sumaya, sorry, I have to cut you for a second. How do I know, what if I'm not in my 30s, but pretend I'm in my 30s and I want to start working out now? What do you tell somebody? It's great to know that balance has to be struck, but where do I start? What if I'm like, I haven't been, a fitness person like you my entire life, and I'm in my 30s or 40s, and I say I want to start working out. Where do I begin?
Just begin with actually moving. Fitness is, all this, I'm sure you've heard about functional training.
Yeah.
Functional training is what our ancestors did in the khet. We were jhadu pocha, going to the khet, doing all of that. That was functional training, lifting, putting things back. Now, because the whole urban lifestyle has become such that we don't move, so we need to go to the gym. And that is really ironic, actually, because I keep telling people it's not about the 1 hour that you do in the gym. It's about what do you do for the next 23 hours. You're only spending 4 hours a week with me. So, and that is not going to bring about any change in your life. You need to be on a general, accepting movement, accepting eating healthy, eating well, eating good food. So it's really about finding that platform for yourself. So it has to be really simple. Go for a walk. There are enough apps to show you how to do basic things correctly. Just lifting weights. You don't have to do a 16-inch box jump to achieve a six-pack ab. According to me, abs are made in the kitchen. No matter how many hours you spend in the day, they will never shine through if you're not eating well. You need to eat for your gut. You need to be not bloated. So you need to understand what works for your body and what doesn't. So exercising is actually really simple. I don't know why it's become so intimidating and why does it require some expertise to make it start. Yes, if you are somebody who's going to start exposing yourself to complicated moves, and I would say that I would recommend you to hire a trainer at least for the first 10 sessions, so you learn form and technique and don't get injured, because I'll see a lot of people getting injured for no reason. Young children getting, young people getting injured because they're doing it all wrong. So that would be my only thing, that if you're trying to embark upon a journey, seek a little bit of professional guidance initially, because exercise technique is a bit complicated. You need to be flexible, you need to be stable, you need to have a strong core to start doing a burpees, and not just immediately wake up and say, my first day of exercise, I'm going to do 100 burpees. So that's the only path where I would say you need a little bit of guidance. Otherwise, basically, you just need to move. Get up, go get yourself a glass of water. Don't ask your DDs to do it. Go for a walk. Walk your dog. And go to the gym 3 times a week if you can, just to do a little bit of your strength work.
What I've been doing the last 2 years, my trainer has literally, it started off as Zoom and now it's pathetic. It's my phone. The phone is put like this with some, one of those nutrition supplement thingy. Work out with my
I think we lost her, no?
Yeah. So I think we should take this forward.
I think we should take the cover. But tell me something, Pooja, do you see this a lot? Like people are like overthinking food and they come to you now no longer for guidance, but they come to you with dictatorial things that I want to do intermittent fasting. I want to do, why are you not putting me on a ketogenic plan? So it's more dictatorial as opposed to getting insights of you. Is that happening to you as well?
Because everyone is being fed with so much information that it's an overload. See, if you're not an expert in the field and there is so much information given to you and for free, the net will throw it at you, your friends will give it to you,
right,
co-workers will give you information. I'm just overloaded with so much, and then I pick bits and pieces from all the little information that was thrown at me, and now I want to make my own khichdi of a few things that I learned. And then there are lots of people that will come to me and give me a tailor-made requirement. Yes, because they picked up one aspect from what someone was saying and 4 aspects from what someone else was saying, and they said now they have decided this is the way they need to eat. So now chalo, you make me a meal plan that gives me all of this.
I really wish there was one generic magic pill, but there really isn't. It's just about really I've done it for long enough to say that there's no magic pill. It's a lifestyle that you adopt, which doesn't have to be crazy. Even though we're, we're perceived as being crazy and obsessive. I mean, I get that a lot from my friends. So from people who I'm professionals with, it's different. But when friends around me will be like, oh my God, you're working out all the time. Or, oh my God, you won't eat that at night. At the end of the day, it's not like that. It's just that this is for us, it's just very easy to stay consistent. And for you, it may not be. But it's not hard. Once you
Yeah.
start recognizing the
So
benefits of it.
that's the thing. Now what we have to teach everyone is not to become an over animated version of yourself.
Yeah.
All you need to do
Yeah.
is just calm down. We need to learn how to calm down. You want to eat good food, great, but don't be obsessive about it.
Mhm.
Don't weigh your 100 grams khana. Don't weigh yourself first thing in the morning. That's obsession. I've lost 100 grams, I've gained 400 grams, so I do. So on a day to day basis, I have to give this example, because every day I will meet at least, if not three, at least one
Uh-huh.
client
Yeah,
who
I
will
can
be
imagine.
who will be so worked up that, Pooja, you told me to eat rice for dinner, but it just doesn't. Every time I ate rice, next day morning I was 300 grams up. Like,
Oh,
what
good
is wrong?
Lord.
Why are we doing this? So this obsession needs to stop, because we are putting so much pressure on food. We are putting
Yeah.
so much pressure on
I think,
ourselves.
yeah, I think that's so true, Pooja. And I think, Devismita, I'd like you to jump in over here and talk a little bit about what, according to you, is the role of food in coping with emotional challenges, because I think that's what ends up happening.
True, true. I was just listening to both of them, and one thing that comes to me is that everything that we know and do behaviorally has happened through repetition. Something as simple as our name, to our eating habits, to the way we, look at ourselves or think about ourselves. And the way to change is also just that. Pick up one little thing and just keep doing it consistently over a period of time, and it's going to become a part of you, right? So as long as we're just being mindful about what we are picking up and just slowly, consistently keep doing that, I think we'll achieve whatever target or goals we've set out for, whether it is fitness or nutrition or just purely mental health. And also, so much of it is about lifestyle, right? None of these things can be looked at in silos. It is just a combination of everything else. But food, I think I couldn't agree more with Pooja, when she said how important a role the gut plays in your mental health. But the other way around is also that you're more likely to eat junk food. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Pooja. If you're up late at night, if you are binging something, and you're sort of not centered emotionally, and these experiences have become more and more a part of our life. I don't remember as a child watching any of my grandparents or my uncles and aunts staying awake at 2-3 o'clock in the night, because everybody would go to sleep. Zada se zada 11 o'clock, everyone's out, lights off. But as those lifestyle changes happen, everything sort of snowballs and becomes a vicious circle. We are eating wrong, it's triggering our moods wrong, and then it just kind of spirals. But at a more sort of surface level, what we see a lot is emotional eating, because food is associated with comfort. Certain foods are associated, I mean, not only do they actually chemically generate that sense of comfort, they're just psychologically associated with feeling good, probably because it has memories attached for me, or nostalgia or whatever. So we eat to cope when we are feeling low, and typically women tend to do more of this. The reason being, we don't have the headspace to think about our emotional state the entire day. A lot of us, right? We don't give ourselves that time and consideration to see, oh, why am I feeling like this? What happened here? Where is that coming from? So it's all sort of swept under the carpet till maybe late at night or somewhere in the afternoon, when you catch yourselves catching a little, getting a little bit of a break, and there's this overwhelming desire to quickly do something to make yourself feel better, to pick yourself up. And you end up eating like a bar of chocolate or something else, which is probably, not great, which probably you didn't intend to eat. And then there's the whole cycle of feeling guilty again, and another emotional overload, and we keep going like that, which becomes very difficult to break out of, because again, repetition strengthens it behaviorally. So yeah, the whole role food plays in coping is sort of tricky. when it becomes something that we use to sort of emotionally pick ourselves up, it's usually not healthy. Like, I haven't heard anyone eating curd rice or apples to pick themselves up. It's usually chocolates, fries, things like that.
Absolutely. Devasmita, I just feel 45 minutes is not even touching the tip of the iceberg with the kind of, treasure troves we're sitting with right now. I mean, the three of you together, I feel 45 minutes, we haven't even been able to touch the tip of the iceberg. But, in the interest of time, I know Pooja has somewhere to go and Sumaya has another engagement as well. I'm happy that we were able to have this conversation. And Devasmita, one thing that I really feel that keeps coming back to me, I've been introduced to mindfulness the last 5 years. My mother keeps telling me, she's like, Ninna, you're a fraud. She's like, look at you. I'm like, mother, if I didn't meditate, if I didn't even do this much, imagine what a bundle of nerves I would be. So I think that's one of my biggest takeaways from listening to each one of you. It's basically being mindful, whether it's the portion, it's the exercise, and how you think. So thank you so much. I'm so happy we were
Thank
able to
you.
touch the tip of the iceberg. Thank you so much. It was wonderful having you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I really wish we had more time. I mean, really could not do justice to this wonderful panel of ladies who are like a treasure trove of information. But do join us tomorrow at the same time. That's 5 p.m., same time, same place to tune in for 4 more acts with some really amazing speakers. And I don't know, I can't even pick the names. There's Seema Anand, there's Neha Bhatt, there's Dr. Kuteris, who's Tanaya Narendra. I mean, there's a bunch of amazing speakers who'll be on tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow, please. Same time, same place. But before I sign off, I'd like to thank our partners once again. So thank you, QuintFit, for hosting us. And thank you, Parthavi. Thank you, Vishali, who'll be on tomorrow. And Vishali is the health editor for The Quint, and she heads QuintFit as well. So wonderful to have her on board. You can hear her tomorrow. And thank you to Mana Wellness for being our well-being partner. Thank you to, look at the list, it's so long, seriously, Dr. KK Agarwal, Heart Care Foundation of India, and to the Healthy Indian Project. So same time, same place tomorrow. See you at 5 p.m. Sunday evening. Thank you.